Welcome back for week 5 of the Sunday Spread, presented by BetMGM on the BetQL network. I am Sean Bell. To my left is Devin Caney, and to my right, Jamaica. Barrett Brooks is in Jamaica.
Just decided to take a little vacation in the middle of the NFL season. Guess the Eagles go on by, and so does Barrett.
So does Barrett go on by, and he gets to go to Jamaica while we sitting here in Philadelphia. No disrespect, Philadelphia, but it's Philadelphia, not Jamaica.
It's not Jamaica.
That's where I wish I was right now, in Jamaica.
Me too. Sounds pretty nice. I hope he's relaxing and having a great time.
What's your favorite place to vacation?
That's a good question.
I know I just brought it on you. What's your favorite place?
My favorite place I've been, or most relaxing. Like, I feel like there are different categories of vacation here, you know?
Oh, here we go. How are there different categories?
Because you have, I love going to London, but that's not necessarily a relaxing vacation. Like a European vacation, you're traveling around all the time, where if you're in Jamaica,
What type of vacationer are you? Because
I can do both.
I'm going to be a little women versus men right now. Because my wife, when we come back from vacation, I feel tired. I told her that's not a vacation to me because she wants to see everything everywhere, and there's an entire itinerary of things to do. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to sit on a beach like Jamaica, like Turks and Caicos, like Key West, and chill. Or which one are you?
So if I really just want to relax, definitely a beach. Nothing. My mom and I, we haven't been in a few years, but we used to do just like a girls' vacation every year, usually every spring, where we'd go to like Cancun, Cabo, Turks and Caicos, wherever, and just do absolutely nothing except for drink on the beach. That's my true vacation. I agree with you. Like, I think I'm not the type of person that loves to, set a full itinerary. I have friends who are like that. But yeah, if I needed some time off, I'm going to the beach. So my favorite beach I've ever been to answer your first question, probably Turks and Caicos. Most beautiful beaches I've ever seen in my life. You mentioned Key West. Key Largo, also very underrated place in the United States.
I love Key West. Key West felt like New Orleans.
It's cool.
On the beach.
Yeah,
it's very relaxed.
Funky. It's funky and it's beautiful
at the same time. Like it was probably my favorite in the States place to go.
Yeah.
Just because of how relaxing, but at the same time funky and fun.
You should try Key Largo because it's like Key West, but less crowded and less. It doesn't have like a town. It's a lot smaller. But because of that, it's just very quiet, very low key, and like the water is beautiful. You can go snorkeling. Isn't this a betting show? What are we talking about?
It is a betting show. But you know what I mean? We got to talk about our vacation since the Eagles. And our first segment is always where we got it right and where we got it wrong.
Let's keep talking about vacations.
Exactly. So I was trying to avoid the statements of where we got it wrong in particular. So with that said, I'm going to start off where I got it right. All right, just to start off on a happy note. I told y'all, Barrett isn't here to get the wrath, so you're going to get some of the wrath.
Okay.
Baltimore Ravens. That was the first one where at first I said, yeah, Buffalo Bills, but then I looked at the schedules. I said, Buffalo hasn't played anybody.
Yeah.
And so when they played Baltimore, I felt confident that the Baltimore Ravens were going to say, we played a couple teams and we kept it close. And we are still close to that Super Bowl team, or at least that AFC Championship team. And they routed the Buffalo Bills. I was surprised that it was a rout.
I was surprised. Yes, I was surprised at how much they were up by, and how much they beat them by. I definitely got that one wrong. Let's see. I've got a list. It was my worst week yet, which is kind of shocking because this NFL season has just been drunk overall. I just feel like it's been the strangest season so far. Like, the underdogs are upsetting all over the place. I got knocked out of my survivor pool for the final time. So I was wrong. So last week, I was talking about my survivor pool woes and how every week I had picked wrong, but my pool allows you to buy back in through 3 weeks. So I thought I was out. I don't remember who I took in week 3. I think I took the Bucks, and they lost to the Broncos. So I thought that was it. Turns out I had one more shot, and I was like, you know what?
Took it?
I'm not even gonna. I'm retiring survivor pool. I can't do it. My boyfriend was like, no. Because he was the one who told me to bet the Bucks. He felt responsible. He was like, I'll pay for you. Buy back in. I took the Jets. And I got knocked out for the 4th and final time. And it was so close, too. It was so close. After I went on a whole rant, too, about how Aaron Rodgers and the Jets aren't as good as everyone just assumes that they're going to be, and they just overrate them because of Aaron Rodgers. I still took them in Survivor Pool. The Broncos, both weeks. Yeah.
That has to be a record. To be knocked out, I didn't even know that was possible. To be knocked out in a Survivor Pool 4 weeks in a row is a record. I didn't know you were allowed to do it 2 weeks in a row.
If at this
4 weeks in a row?
If at this point you're still in a Survivor Pool, especially one that doesn't allow you to buy back in, congrats, because that's incredible. Like, I don't know who you've been taking, but yeah, it hasn't been fun. I was also wrong. I keep thinking that tight ends are going to start heating up. I'm filling in for Barrett here with my love for tight ends. He's usually our tight end guy.
Whoa.
Travis Kelce did a little bit more, but he still hasn't scored a touchdown. I was totally wrong. I thought Mike Gesicki was going to go off for the Bengals. Nope, didn't even hit over 27 receiving yards. Kyle Pitts did absolutely nothing. Just terrible.
It's
terrible.
Every week there's been at least 5 upsets.
Hasn't really been
at least 5 upsets.
That's crazy.
It's been a ridiculous season when it comes to that. So again, I was definitely wrong with right with the Baltimore Ravens. I was wrong with a lot of other things though. The Rams, Chicago Bears, the Bears, came up and got a dub, right? Like I thought the Rams would be able to overcome because they were able to overcome against the San Francisco 49ers. The Minnesota Vikings still. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But still.
Haven't lost. Are they elite?
Lost. They're
Sam Darnold elite? Sam Darnold is the best quarterback in the league right now. Jaden Daniels starting to give him a run for his money, but I mean, Sam Darnold, best quarterback rating in the NFL. Who would have thought? Not me. You don't look happy about that.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about that at all because, again, the Minnesota Vikings are a team that you don't believe in. That I don't believe in. But it seems like they're making believers out of me. Again, they have the best. They beat, the Texans. They beat the 49ers. They not only are they 4-0, but they beat teams that we expect to be playoff teams. The other place where I did get it right, that's going to upset you and the ghost of Barrett Brooks, which is in Jamaica.
The ghost of Barrett Brooks, yeah.
The Eagles losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I told you guys.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles have struggles against the Bucs regardless, right?
The Buccaneers have something about the Bucs and playing in Tampa.
Todd Bowles just sort of owns Jalen Hurts, has him figured out. They have a bunch of injuries on that roster, so they weren't able to play. But I ask you, what's your worry meter on Jalen Hurts?
Pretty high. Pretty high.
Said simply.
I mean, I think a lot of us were wrong on that Eagles-Bucks pick. I wasn't super confident just because of the injuries. And then you also have the weather. So there was the hurricane that rolled through. It wasn't raining, but still because of that and because it's Florida, it was like 105-degree real feel down on the field. It was humid. I know that had to have impacted players. Like, guys were going off the field with dehydration. And I'm not saying all of this to make excuses because I still think the Eagles, just on both sides of the ball, played horribly. I would say the biggest concern level for me is with the coaching, and that's not just Nick Sirianni. Like, I think he's taking the brunt of it, as he should, because he's the head coach. But Vic Fangio and this defense, like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? You're just letting Mike Evans catch. He should have listened to our show because Sean Evans goes on a rant about how Mike Evans is the best receiver of all time every single week. Maybe Vic Fangio should have listened to that instead of putting, like, guys in weird coverage positions on Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the list goes on. Their offense just rolled over the Eagles defense. And then Kellen Moore, whatever his role is, just the play calling has been very confusing to me. I don't think Saquon Barkley's touching the ball nearly enough as he should, especially with all the injuries. Yeah. Our producer said, Evans said Quinyon Mitchell couldn't guard him. Well, Quinyon Mitchell has played 3-4 NFL games total. He's a rookie, and you're going to put him on a guy who puts up 1,000 receiving yards a season?
And Quinyon's a dog, though, right? Like, he's one of the only bright spot when it comes to young players.
He's great, yes.
For the Eagles team. Jalen Hurts concerns me a lot because his pocket presence was one of the worst I've seen him in a long time. Like, I understand Lane Johnson's out. I understand your weapons are out. But if a guy runs past you, probably behind you somewhere.
Yeah.
and he's probably going to come and get you. Mm-hmm. Why are you staying in the exact same spot? Also, what worries me is I kept saying, why aren't you getting out of the pocket and boogieing? Get out and run. Get out and do some things. Scamper. Right? Yeah. Like what he was in the Super Bowl run where he might F around, because here's why I'm mad. I had a parlay in that game, a 6-leg parlay. 5 of the legs hit, but I picked Jalen Hurts to run for over 40 yards.
Yeah.
And the man decided not to get out of the pocket and run. I'm going to stay in the pocket and get strip sacked instead of running. And I'm like, Jalen, that's what made you special 2 years ago in the MVP candidate. Like, I know you don't want to get hurt, but the threat of I may pop one for 35 has to be there for Jalen Hurts instead of him staying in the pocket and then making bad decisions.
He has to be more aware. He also holds on to the ball way too long, turns the ball over way too much. And that's all, like, these are all, correlated issues. Hearing Tom Brady kind of break it down, I'm like, Tom Brady, do you want to quit broadcasting because you're really not that great at it and, like, come be Jalen Hurts' personal coach? Yeah, I mean, and I don't blame the O-line. I know that Lane Johnson was out, but there's only so long that the Eagles' offensive line can hold those guys back. Like, Jalen's holding on to the ball the longest out of any quarterback in the league. Any quarterback in the league right now. And he was last year, too. What was he doing in 2022 when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl and he was an MVP candidate? He was getting the ball out quick. So whatever is, I feel like it's like a mental thing, honestly, at this point. Like, it's, I don't know if it's the yips or what. He's overthinking it, and he's not, he needs to make better decisions and quicker decisions.
Definitely quicker decisions. So let's get to something that can actually affect betting, affect fantasy ownership.
Yeah.
Davante Adams wants out of Oakland.
Sure does, yeah.
He wants to get out of here.
Out of Oakland.
Las Vegas. You're forever Oakland to me, and Chargers, you're forever San Diego.
Oh, Chargers? Well, for some reason, I'm having a harder time with the Chargers than the Raiders. Like, Chargers, I still call them San Diego Chargers.
Like, stop it. That's who you are. And no one cares about you in L.A., by the way. So you might as well go back to San Diego. But he wants out of Vegas. He wants out of whatever has to do with the Raiders. And people are picking around. One thing I want to say to him is, stop trying to play with your friends. Right? Like, it's like, oh, the rumors are you want to go to the Saints or you want to go to the Jets for your former quarterbacks. Didn't you learn your lesson? When you left Green Bay, you went to go, I'm going to go play with my old quarterback in Derek Carr. How'd that work out for you? It sucked, and he was out quick. Now you want to go back and find Derek Carr, or you want to go to where Aaron Rodgers, who we both think isn't that good anymore.
No.
So, Davante Adams, when you're at the top of your game and you have a quarterback, you're a top 3 wide receiver in the league. Go ask to play for real quarterbacks in real situations. So that's my advice to you, Davante. I know you ain't listening to me, but that's my advice. Forget about playing with your friends. Go find a real quarterback in a real offensive system. But what can that do, and where do you think he can fit? Because there's rumors are he may end up in the NFC East.
I know. I was just going to say, I hope he doesn't end up in the NFC East because, the Commanders, we'll get to the Commanders in a bit. I'm not downplaying their success. Like, they've been playing great. Jaden McDaniels, is definitely a threat and a great quarterback. But I also think maybe we need to, like, reel it in a little bit. It's so funny with the NFL. Like, it's a team can go from horrendous to, like, the best team ever. And a player, and especially a quarterback, can go from horrible and washed or, a bust to an MVP in like a game. Yeah. So Jaden McDaniels is currently Daniels. Sorry.
Do it all the time,
Mike
too.
McDaniel. There's a lot of McDaniels in the NFL. Yeah. Jaden Daniels, like, playing great, but I also think maybe we need to just, like, reel it in a little bit. Anyways, I hope that Devontae Adams doesn't go to the Commanders.
Yeah.
I think he fits with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think that
can't happen.
Right.
Can't happen.
Which is just great. Like, I get it, but I also think, like, if you have a chance and you have injuries, Rashee Rice is out. Isaiah Pacheco has already been out. Like, they need more help, and to not make a trade simply because it's a rival, it's a little bit crazy to me.
I'm not petty though. I'm not petty.
For the Eagles and Giants, what could go wrong?
I'm that. Yeah, exactly. I'm that petty. I'm like, I'm not sending you. And there's rumors of Dallas also being the landing spot.
Yeah, don't come to the NFC East, please. Please.
Dallas only has CD as a
weapon. Go play with
your
your friends. Go to the Jets.
That
go to the Bills.
Be a possibility, but
the Ravens could use him too.
Yeah, people talking about the Ravens.
Ravens don't have a lot of
landing spot, and that's a spot that he said he's willing to go to. He says, I want to go play with Lamar also.
Okay.
He said that on the record because I think a question was asked of whether or not he wants that 1,700-yard season, or would he be okay playing with Lamar but only getting 900,000 yards? He's like, hey, Lamar, Super Bowl? Yeah, I'll take that option. So that would be unbelievable for him to go there and play. But, again, a lot of different places that he can go to. I mean, even the Chargers. You look at the Chargers team.
Is that an option for him?
I don't think so. He hasn't mentioned them, but why not?
Yeah.
You got Justin Herbert. You got offense. You got. They're missing wide receivers. And they have young wide receiver options. Again, I think almost every team should be in on Devontae except like 4 teams in the league because they're already stacked with the wide receiver position, like the Eagles. You know what I mean? But everybody else should be in on that type of individual, right?
Yeah.
So again, that can change a lot when it comes to betting, when it comes to fantasy ownership, when it comes to everything, depending on where Devontae ends up. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's every week. This is maybe the most important segment because it's so many upsets, at least 5 upsets in every week so far. It's looking like it's going to be more of that. We're trying to figure out who is what in what situation. So next segment coming up, upset alerts. We're going to pick who we think is going to upset, and there's going to be at least 5, so we got to pick at least 5. All right, this is the Sunday Spread. Devin Caney, Sean Bell, presented by BetMGM. Once again, welcome back to Week 5 of the Sunday Spread. Devin Caney, Sean Bell, presented by BetMGM on the BetQL network. It's up that time. It's underdogs because they've been winning. Because we have no idea, right, Devin? We have no idea who's good and who's not. I still feel like it's kind of confusing.
It is so confusing. And then once you think you know who is good, they go out and they lose to a team that's not supposed to be good. So this NFL season is drunk. Like, I swear, it just makes no sense. And it's honestly even hard as it is to pick a favorite and a team that is supposed to win and cover their spread. It's almost just as hard to pick an underdog that you think is going to upset. Because it could be anyone at any point throughout this season so far.
Yeah, the Panthers can all of a sudden
right. They were a sure thing for the first 3 weeks of the season, first 2 weeks. And
the Broncos can go on a two-game winning streak. It's just...
Are the Broncos good? Like, we should talk about that at some point because, as I mentioned at the start of the show, the Broncos are responsible for knocking me out of my Survivor pool 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. So Bo Nix, I don't know. Maybe he's got a secret sauce. I don't
think so. But you can't believe me at this point.
Their defense isn't bad, right?
I don't know. That's the problem. Like, I haven't been like I've seen the stats and I've paid attention, but I haven't really been able to lock in on an entire game and really care. But you just look at it and you go, no, come on, it's Bo Nix. You know what I mean? Like, who are they? You know what? Before we get to that, these upsets, I told you on Twitter I had to ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I was about to call the Denver Broncos something. And I want to know if they make your list. I want everyone to know. Devin Caney last year and all the time has a swagless list. Right? Like
swagless, that's good.
Yes, that's swagless list. A list of teams that don't have swag. You don't really want to watch them. You don't know what they really do. You don't really care for them. Like,
they're not necessarily fun to watch either. Because
watching them is like dry
there. Yeah.
They're
just there. It's mediocre football for the most part. They don't typically have a lot of stars, or if they do, maybe it's like an older star, a younger they're not popping off. Yeah, they're not popping off. They're not.
If they're on TV with another swagless team, you probably turn to HGTV and watch Love It or List It.
Should we go over my vibeless, swagless list?
Vibeless. I'm sorry, it's vibeless.
No, but I like swagless too. You know, lacking swag, vibe, whatever. You get the point.
Whatever you want to call it, because it's your list. I want you to give me that list of teams that you're just like, there's nothing there for me.
So what prompted me to post about this on Twitter was the Titans. The Titans are probably, in my opinion, like the most vibeless team this season. Like, what are they? You have the most interesting thing about you is that you have a quarterback who likes mayo. Like, that's it. That's who also makes mistakes. I know he didn't play.
I like mayo.
But doesn't he like really? I think he really likes it.
Okay.
I think there was some weird thing. I don't know.
You make it sound
he's
like
in mayonnaise ads
like...
now. Will Levis. Yeah, I mean, and I know that they have like DeAndre Hopkins. When is the last time DeAndre Hopkins did anything that was newsworthy? Sorry, no disrespect. I know he's a great person, but yeah, they're number one vibeless. Okay. I would say the Broncos probably are up there too, even though that they've won 2 in a row. Like, you don't necessarily have to be a really bad team to be vibeless, because I would argue the Panthers actually weren't vibeless. Like, they Their vibe was that they were losers.
They sucked. I want to see how bad you can
suck.
My
vibe was, these teams that are kind of like in the middle of the pack, like they're just there, and the Titans are there.
Said, no aura. You got no aura.
No aura. Yes, the Broncos are there. Who else? Some people said the Jags, and I actually don't think the Jags are vibeless because I think Trevor Lawrence can be a lot better than what he's playing recently. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Who's on your list?
New England.
Yes, New England. That's a great one.
Said,
New England.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Put your backup quarterback in so we can see what's going on. Let's put Drake May in. New England's very vibeless. Mm-hmm. That's about it. I think every other team has some level of interest when healthy. Now, there's a lot of vibeless teams when they have certain people out.
The Raiders are a little bit vibeless to me. Max Crosby gives them some swag.
Yeah.
But their offense, especially once they lose Devontae Adams, not great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The Colts without Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. Extremely
when he gets hurt a lot, it's no aura, no vibes. I don't really want to watch this. So, all right. And the Rams with Cooper Kupp and Pua out. I'm sorry. I sort of
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're still entertaining. You got Sean McVay.
So you get it. You get it. The Chargers a little bit. I think Harbaugh has helped kind of give them a little bit of an aura.
I think he's actually made them vibeless.
You think?
It's boring football. Justin Herbert has a cannon and is thrown for 5,000 yards, and now he got him throwing for 175 a week, and you're just
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So they're on the verge. They're getting better, but I feel like their aura is dropping.
It is. You're right.
Because they're playing 1980s football. But he gives
them more they're Harbaugh's Chargers now.
Yeah. Just
instead of
Harbaugh does have aura and aura.
Former San Diego Chargers.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. They're still San Diego. I don't care. So let's get to the upsets, and we're gonna go by game and say, okay, how we feel about this game if we think it's a possible upset. And at the end of going through all the games, we're going to then say what our favorite upset games and put a little money on it, okay? So the first game is Panthers-Bears. Panthers plus 170 to win this game. What you think, Dev?
So, I mean, the Bears were, looking a lot better than we saw last week. You know me, number one Bears fan here. Caleb Williams, I think we saw, how starting up the run game and getting the offense going on the ground can really help him out. DeAndre Swift, my prediction was a week late. If you remember in week 3, I was like, this is the week DeAndre Swift is going to pop off, and I was wrong. But he popped off in week 4, and I love that for him. So I think he keeps it going. I love that Andy Dalton has seemingly given his team a sense of renewed life and excitement, but I still think that the Bears are the better team, especially defensively. I mean, the Panthers offensively just don't really have enough weapons to overcome that. So I think it'll be close, but I like the Bears.
Yeah, the red.
I don't see the Panthers upsetting them.
That Andy Dalton red rifle stuff is done. Like you had your fun in the sun. You came in for one game, then you competed against the Cincinnati Bengals. Right, scored 24 points, lost 34-24, but the Bears are much better defense. If Caleb seems to keep getting a little bit better and a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right, so if that run game,
2-2.
Yeah, if that run game starts going, I think the Bears win this game in a vibeless game. By the way, if you're gonna talk, it's gonna be a game I'm not gonna watch. This is one of the least watched games in this entire schedule.
Well, so a lot of underdogs are winning, but also this seems to be a week of revenge games. And this is one DJ Moore playing against his former team, even though. I mean, I don't know if I can confidently say, DJ Moore definitely won that one, but he could still go off. I don't know.
He could still go off. Jets-Vikings.
That's
the next game. Plus 120 in London. Early morning game.
I know that we're going through our dogs of the week, so I don't see an upset happening here. I think the Vikings continue their undefeated streak here. I think the Vikings are going to go 5-0. Like I've mentioned, I'm not super impressed with Aaron Rodgers. I think just because Aaron Rodgers is the Jets quarterback, we assume that they're going to be Super Bowl contenders. They lost to the Broncos last week. He drove down the field at the end of the game and had chances to win it, and he couldn't. And that's what a good quarterback does. And I just don't see it from him. I don't see it from the Jets offense. So I like the Vikings continuing to roll on. Sam Darnold's look great. He's the best quarterback rating in the NFL through 4 weeks. Leads the league in touchdown passes. And it's a revenge game. Another revenge game for Sam Darnold.
Yeah, and I'm with you. You lost to the Broncos. right? Like 10-9.
Yeah.
There's arguing between the quarterback and the head coach, where the head coach has to clarify a statement because the quarterback said something against what he said earlier in a press conference. So it's like, okay, yeah, what I meant was, Aaron, okay, y'all don't like each other. Y'all not on the same page. Mm-hmm. This team ain't very good, and they have a disconnect. Bengals, Ravens. How do you feel about that upset?
Well, so the Ravens, I mean, I was surprised. I know you kind of were higher on the Ravens going into that game against the Bills than I was in Week 4. I think that the Bengals really needed that win, but I also think that they're still in desperation mode, and the Ravens could be riding high off their big win over the Bills, and that kind of makes them vulnerable. So for that reason, I could see the Bengals covering. But I just don't see the Bengals defense being able to stop Derrick Henry and Lamar and the rest of the Ravens offense from just driving down the field the same way that they did in Buffalo. So I don't see an upset here. Not taking the dog. What about you?
Me neither.
No.
This is supposed to be our upset segment.
I know.
And we just like, nah, I don't see.
Well, because there have been so many upsets, we're like, do we just like pick a few? No, we have to go through every single game and see.
Yeah. So let's, again, we're not going to go through every game, but I do think this next game on Brink Up is going to be my upset. Colts, Jaguars. Jaguars stink. And maybe they, as soon as I pick them, this is the time that they want to rise up. But the Jaguars stink. Doug Peterson's his job. Trevor Lawrence just got a big contract, but at the same time, I feel like if they continue to be this bad, they're going to have a top pick, and they may ship off Trevor Lawrence for a Cam Ward or somebody coming out of college. I think the Colts win this game. What do you think?
Do we know? I think Richardson might still be out. Flacco could be in again. That could affect the Colts. I don't think that the Colts are that great regardless of who their quarterback is, but Jags are the only winless team in the NFL. I kind of like the Jags covering 3 points. I kind of like it. They're in desperation mode. They're playing at home in that Florida heat and humidity.
You got to pick a win though.
I know.
This is flat out upset.
I know.
What you picking?
I'm not taking the Colts. I'm not taking the Colts.
Okay.
I'm not. So that's not an upset because they're underdogs.
Okay.
So I'm sticking with the Jags winning at home. They're desperate. They have to win at least one game. Like, we're going into week 5 here. Come on.
Okay. I mean,
they're playing for their job.
This may be your Doug Peterson love right here,
maybe.
But I don't know, and I don't see them actually being able to do so. Let's skip through some other games and see what we like. It's just a beast to some.
I can give you a few who I think will upset.
Just go ahead.
I have 2. So I think the Browns can cover 3.5 against the Commanders. Mm-hmm. That's where the line is right now, 3.5. I'm not saying the Browns are great, and I'm not saying the Commanders are bad, but if we look at who the Commanders have played and beat, it's not like it's like the Bills. Like they beat the Patriots, they got crushed by the Buccaneers, they beat the Giants, but only by 3 points. Mm-hmm. They beat the Bengals not by that much. They beat the Cardinals, whose defense is horrible. So they haven't really faced too many tough defenses so far. And again, Jaden Daniels playing great. I'm impressed with him. He's having a great rookie season, but I also think we maybe need to reel it in a little bit when it comes to expectations for him. I think the Browns can upset the Commanders here because their defense is so good, and the Commanders' defense also isn't great. I think the Browns can run the ball with Jerome Ford all day against the Commanders. So I like them upsetting, and I also like the Saints. Plus 5.5 over the Chiefs. Saints have lost 2 in a row. Their offense is still pretty healthy, pretty good. They still have guys like Rashid Shaheed. They've got Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara. You look at the Chiefs. They're already down Isaiah Pacheco. They're down Rashee Rice. They're losing weapons. Pretty decimated. Travis Kelce has yet to score a touchdown. I think it's a good spot for the Saints.
Wow. Now that you should have led with that. We should have led with this.
Well, yeah, but you wanted to go with every game
over the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Why? Because the Saints have been poor. What makes you? Again, I know the Chiefs, but Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, they just get it done without their big time.
They're analytically rated the luckiest team in the league. They should not be winless. I mean, not winless. They should not be undefeated. I can't. What is with me? And words are hard for me today. So they're overdue, and they have a lot of injuries. They're a lot more injured than the Saints, and the Saints have lost 2 in a row. They're going to be hungry for a win.
I don't believe in this lucky stuff.
But it's like proven.
For the Chiefs. Yeah, but when
if you look back at any of the Chiefs games, their offense has not played incredible. Neither side of the ball has played incredibly well for the Chiefs yet.
You know what I think it is?
What?
It's supposed to look? Aura. My aura beat you.
Maybe.
Right? Like, because you feel like you got to do things outside of your character, because you feel like this is a Chiefs game, I got to make a big play, my aura beat you. Right? Like, you dropped that pass because you understood how important it was, and you shriveled up in key moments. I think the Chiefs are in their aura stage. Like, Michael Jordan on some, like, Michael Jordan's over there. So all of a sudden I play worse because I'm frigidy and I feel like I got to do too much, and all these other things start happening. Mm-hmm. And Michael Jordan just ends up winning the game. Even if Michael Jordan shoots, and he used to have games where he shot 11 for 30. It didn't matter. It was aura. You're scared of me. And I think that's what the Chiefs are starting to do to teams throughout this league.
Maybe.
Or aura wins. So I just feel like, again, they're that good, and they're going to continue to do that. Again, a lot of games, I agree with you on the Browns Commanders. I'll go back to that. You ain't face this Browns defense. I know Myles Garrett is questionable, but if he plays, all right, this is a different level of a monster, right? You're going to see, eventually you're going to have rookie struggles. I don't care how good you are. Every rookie has rookie struggles. So I'm with you on the Washington pick because, again, I do think Jayden Daniels is going to continue to be that dude.
No, he's great. I don't want people listening to think that I'm saying we're wrong about him. I think he's great. I'm just saying he doesn't yet have, which is probably why they're, in the top for talks to get Devontae Adams. He doesn't have enough around him yet to be like a serious threat. And look, I could be wrong. They could go on to win the Super Bowl this year. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm just saying.
Let's not go that far.
Like, we're just like, maybe we should reel it in a little bit. And we're also, I think, underrating the Browns, especially defensively. Like, the Commanders just simply haven't faced a defense like the Browns defense yet this season.
Okay. I got you. I like it. And the one last one I'll go with is, I had it right here written down. Raiders, Broncos 3 in a row.
Two vibeless teams.
Yes. And the Broncos are the kings of the vibeless. So yeah. I don't feel like you're going to beat the Raiders and continue to have a 3-game winning streak with Bo Nix. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to believe. So that's the one of the ones I'm for sure picking. All right. Got to take another break. When we come back, it's touchdowns. Touchdown scores, touchdown parlays. I got royally screwed this past week, which I got to tell you about. Like, I got screwed in the same way almost 2 weeks in a row that I've never been screwed on before, and I am like flabbergasted and annoyed by it.
Another parlay that was like 2 yards short? Is that what happened?
Another parlay that was an inch short.
Oh, my God.
Okay? An inch short. So we'll get to that when we come back. Once again, Devin Caney, Sean Bell on the Sunday Spread. Once again, welcome back to the Sunday Spread presented by BetMGM on the BetQL Network. Sean Bell, Devin Caney. Don't forget your no sweat bets. That's where I really go crazy because we're talking about touchdown parlays and touchdown scores. I'm like, I could just add it up because I'm going to get this money back.
So do you use your no sweat for like the real sicko stuff, like just a anytime touchdown from every game plus $5 million? Yeah. Or do you use it for a realistic bet?
No, I go sicko mode. Here's
so
what
I always use it on the wrong thing. I think I always use it on like too safe of a bet, and I need to get. I go
safe bet on when it comes back to me.
Okay.
So I go sicko mode with the first one.
Yeah.
And then when it comes back and I lose, I'm gonna go on a really safe bet to sort of get my money out. Like, all right, I'm just gonna go. This is only plus 120.
Yeah.
Or just a game where I like this team's gonna win. I'm just gonna pick it flat out money line. It's minus 110, but whatever. You know what I mean? Like I do the safe, but first, no sweat.
See, I need to be better about just going with the minus 110s. If I see that, I'm like, no, not even worth it.
I know.
Give me plus 3,000 at least on everything, and I need to reel that in.
I try to tell myself feed the bank.
Yeah.
So like, if I put down $5, but I get 15 back, it's like, all right, that'll feed my other.
Then you just keep
feed a few more other bets. Like those are the feed the bank. I always got to make sure. If I do 5 crazy bets, I got to have 2 safe bets. Now, mind you, all the upsets. The safe bets ain't so safe. That's betting. But 2 bets I feel are really safe to sort of just add a few dollars to my bank to get that money back.
Yeah.
So that's usually my philosophy.
Gotta save up.
We talked about touchdown scores, and I told you before in my little tease about getting screwed. I told you about Jalen Hurts being a touchdown merchant 2 weeks ago, where Saquon Barkley it was his knee down on the inch line, and then they did a tush push. Saquon doesn't get his touchdown. And that one game he doesn't have a touchdown all year. I lose my bet. Detroit Lions, Seattle Seahawks, Monday Night Football. Let's go crazy. No sweat bet. Let's go crazy. And it's not that crazy, but I'm going to have 4 people in one game getting a touchdown. I normally don't do that. So I had Kenneth Walker, the third, getting the touchdown. Anytime TD.
Got to add the third.
He had 3. I had Jahmyr Gibbs getting a touchdown. He had 2. I had David Montgomery getting an anytime touchdown. He had 1. And I had DK Metcalf getting a touchdown. DK Metcalf catches the ball. And I believe this was a first quarter situation. Catches the rock. Spins around. They call it a touchdown. They replay it back. His knee was down. They put it on the inch line. They give it to Kenneth Walker.
Oh, no.
Who had 3 touchdowns on the day. So he ain't need 3. So I would have had, mind you, I believe, if I remember correctly, I would have had a 4 touchdown parlay in the first half. In the first half of football, my bet would have been won if they would have gave that to DK Metcalf because Kenneth Walker scored later.
Yeah.
In the first quarter. So, yes. Twice an inch line. Let's call that back. We called it a touchdown. But we're going to replay it. Oh, wasn't a touchdown.
So it's so rough.
Running back gets it. Jalen Hurts gets it. And I miss out. On a solid $200. I put, I think, $10 down on it. Would have brought me back $200.
Sorry. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
Wait, but was it a no sweat? Or was it like you didn't get the money back? You just ended up with a mistake?
No, I don't think it was a no sweat.
Okay.
Actually. I think it was just a regular bet.
Yeah.
Just like,
I was surprised. So the Lions, and they're on bye this week, but they, with anytime touchdowns and even props, it's just hard because you never know if it's going to be a Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery game. Like, I think it's a pretty much guaranteed that one of them is going to score at any point in a Lions game, but like which one, it's hard to tell, and I've just given up betting it because I can never predict it properly.
But funny thing is, you said this before, and I concurred with you.
Yeah.
The second bet I had on this game, I forgot about that all totally. I had Jahmyr Gibbs going over 75. He had 78. I had Kenneth Walker going over 75. He had 80. I had DK Metcalf over 75. He had 104. I had Amon St. Brown going over 75 also. He had 45. Because it's the same situation. Like, who's getting the rock? Oh, Jameson Williamson all of a sudden gets 80.
Right.
Who is freaking Tim Patrick? Tim Patrick getting 53 yards. I'm like, why are you throwing to all these other individuals?
Don't you love that when it goes to someone random and you're like, what? Who are you? Like when did you get into the league?
The Lions have this team where it's like, we can give it to anybody and anybody can eat on this day. They are a terrible betting team because David Montgomery had 40 yards. And that always screws me, like you said, Gibbs or Montgomery. Gibbs or Montgomery. But the same thing with the write-outs. Do I go Jameson Williamson? Do I go Amon St. Brown?
Hard. It's hard to tell.
I got real angry in remembering these games just now. So with that said,
I was looking at our producer in our chat who said that picking between Jalen Hurts and Saquon to score is the hardest decision in my life right now. Yes, that is also a really hard one. Luckily, we don't have to make both the hardest teams to choose for anytime touchdown scorers are on a bye this week. So
yes,
got a break from that one.
Saquon's touchdown has to be from 20 yards out, or
I did. That was one thing I got right, but I think I lumped it in a parlay that didn't hit was the Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. That's like they're gonna tush the push. That push the tush. They're gonna push the tush.
It works both ways.
Yeah, it does.
Tush the push the tush. It works both ways. So with that said, let's get to our anytime touchdown scorers. All right. We'll start with you before. Kenny has a list, and we'll go through that list, and we'll see what we like or don't like. But I want you to go through your favorite off the top.
All right, so I have a few favorites. Should I go through? I have 4. Should I go through the 4 of them and then we can parlay it? You can parlay it
if you
want. All right, so I'm going to start with Brian Robinson from the Commanders. Browns, I know I was, talking about how good their defense is. If their defense has a weakness, it is their run defense. They gave up 152 yards on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns to the Raiders. So I like Brian Robinson. They had another guy go off on the ground whose name I can't even remember right now. I think he's a rookie, but it was another situation where it was like, who are you?
Why are you doing this?
Why? I like James Cook going off for the Bills. Texans run defense gave up over 150 yards on the ground to the Jags, and Cook had a quiet game against the Ravens, so I think he's going to bounce back. CeeDee Lamb against the Steelers. Steelers pass defense gave up 2 touchdowns to the Colts, and CeeDee Lamb is he's like the Jalen Hurts of the Cowboys. He's probably going to get into the end zone at some point. And then in that same game, Justin Fields, because he had 2 rushing touchdowns last week. We know the Cowboys defense isn't that great against running offenses and especially a mobile quarterback. So those are my 4 anytime touchdowns that I like so far this week.
Not going to throw any tight ends in there?
So I tried to do the tight end thing last week. I think Barrett influenced me because, we know he's our resident, tight end lover. Whoa, sounds so crazy when I say it. But I had to go back to the running backs for the most part. CeeDee Lamb and Justin Fields change it up a bit, but a little mix up. But no, tight ends, they failed me last week. I thought last week was going to be the week tight ends heated up, and I was wrong. So now we fade.
Avoiding all tight ends at this point. I'm with you on the running backs. I stick with the running backs. Derrick Henry, I'm going to go in.
Go in.
Leading the league in rushing. Just absolutely dominating individual. Has 5 TDs on the year. Facing the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, I like the Ravens in this game, but I think regardless, points are going to be scored, and Derrick Henry's going to be the individual to run somebody over. Because when they get close, hey, you're within 5 yards, do it. Here you go. Here you go, big boy. Jonathan Taylor, another guy. He has 4 TDs on the year so far, facing the Jaguars, which is, again, terrible. I know you got them winning. But the Colts, and especially if Anthony Richardson, they rely on Jonathan Taylor being great. They rely on the play-action pass because they don't have a dynamic quarterback right now that understands the quarterback position in its totality right now. So they need the balanced attack, so I'm going to continue with Jonathan Taylor. Jordan Mason is just consistent. Jordan Mason is a consistent guy. Again, he only has 3 touchdowns, but he's going to get the rock. I'm going to count I'm done with the teams, Detroit's, and that I don't know who's going to get the rock. I know Jordan Mason is going to get the rock. I know he's going to get it a lot for the 49ers. He's second in the league when it comes to rushing yards. Taking on the Cardinals team, they're at home, so I think they're going to pound the rock. I think they're going to get up early, so I'm going to give it to Jordan Mason. So those are the guys that I'm looking for touchdowns. I wanted to say Kenneth Walker III again, but the one thing the Giants are good at is the defensive line. So I'm thinking about adding on DK Metcalf because the Giants on the back end don't know what they're doing, and I think DK is going to have a big game, but that will be a last-minute one. That's not one that I'm ready to give out right now, but it's one that I'm thinking of adding on to that parlay of touchdowns.
I like that. Also, to add on to your Jordan Mason one, I might add him in mine because Cardinals, they're 0-4 in their last 4 meetings against the Niners, but they've allowed the most rushing touchdowns in the league, along with the Cowboys, tied at 8. So
okay, so let's go through these one real quick while we got about 3 more minutes. Let's go to some of the one that Kenny Henderson has put up for us. Touchdown scores. See what you like, what you don't like. Bears, Panthers. DJ Moore in a revenge game. Plus 180. Anytime tutty.
Yeah, sure. I like it. He's a great receiver. I think my only worry, I don't worry about the Panthers secondary. I worry about Caleb Williams. And, we talked about how the Bears offense really needs to rely on the run to help Caleb Williams out. So, but he's going to throw it at some point. So might as well be a revenge game touchdown. Do you?
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
It's just their offense is just.
I know.
I stay away from it. If I go with someone, I'm going to go with Swift. But their offense just isn't explosive enough and not going to score enough TDs for me to feel comfortable making that bet. Derrick Henry already said I like minus 170 against the Ravens. What do you think? Not a great number, but still.
I like it. My only concern is that he ran so much against the Bills that like maybe he's going to be gassed, and they were on such a high probably from, gearing up for that game, then going out and kind of crushing the Bills that maybe he's going to be tired. But I like it. I think he'll get in the end zone at least once.
Another revenge games. Bills Texans, Stefon Diggs, plus 160.
I like it. I'm taking this one. If any revenge game narrative is actually going to play out, and I'm going to believe in the true revenge game, actually fueling a player, it's going to be Stefon Diggs against the Bills. So I like him getting a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm with you too.
Yeah,
feed me. You better feed me. I want to get in the end zone. Last one I'll give you. Browns Commanders. Jaden Daniels has run for a TD 3 out of 4 games. Plus 135 for anytime touchdown. What do you think?
Well, I already gave Brian Robinson Jr. as my anytime touchdown scorer for the Commanders, so I'm going to fade that. But I like that. It's good to know, but I am going to fade it. I think I would go running back scoring over Daniels.
Yeah. Makes me too nervous. Yeah. To be honest with you. I don't know if you're a running threat like that every game. You ain't. I don't know if you're gonna be Lamar Jackson status,
right,
or Jalen Hurts tush push status for me. So I always stay away from most of those anytime touchdown bets when it comes to quarterbacks. But I can actually see him getting it done. All right, when we come back, alternatives. Kenny's gonna join us and give us our alternatives. The big numbers. The over 75 yards, over 100 yards, over 125 yards, the ones that's going to make you a lot of money. So that's what we're going to get to coming up on the Sunday Spread. Welcome back to the Sunday Spread. Sean Bell, Devin Caney, once again presented by BetMGM on the BetQL Network. Now it's time for the big bets. Now it's time for the alternatives. The 75 over, 100 over, 125 over, 150.
150.
If you want to get risky. Kenny, our producer, come in and tell us what you got for us.
What's up, guys? I'm glad that we talked about the revenge game narratives in the last segment. We know how hard it is to get in the end zone. Let's talk about some yards. DJ Moore against the Panthers. Caleb Williams has not broke out yet this season so far, but maybe a good opportunity against a pretty bad Panthers defense. DJ Moore has not had 100 yards as well. Maybe they're going to be looking to get him past that century mark. The number is at plus 500, so you're getting a really good number here for DJ Moore for his first 100-yard game against his former team.
I'm going to fade this one because, has Caleb, do we have confidence Caleb Williams can even throw for over 100 yards at this point? Sorry, that was mean, but, it's true. I just don't, I love the DJ Moore revenge game narrative, and looking at his receiving yards, through this season so far, he hasn't gotten more. 78 is his highest, is against the Colts. So I could see him going maybe 75 plus, but 100 plus, I can't take that risk. What about you?
No way. No, and again, I think DJ Moore is a fantastic wide receiver. I think he's one of those guys that can get you consistent 100-yard games. But the problem is that offensive line stinks. And Caleb Williams can't deal with that offensive line right now. So getting them the rock. Again, he had 22 yards last week. So at some point he's going to have a big game, but until they sort all that other stuff out, it's wide receivers are hopeless. Yeah. They're helpless. Like you talked about DeAndre Hopkins. What has he done lately?
Right.
He's been stuck in that vibeless hole, that swagless hole of a franchise. So of course you feel like he can't do anything anymore. And I think that's what DJ Moore is stuck at the beginning part of this season. So, yeah, Kenny, I don't like it either.
All right, well, let's go to the next revenge game for receivers. Stefon Diggs, 100-plus yards, plus 550, even better value on this one. Of course, he's going against his former team in the Bills. He's seen a lot of volume so far this season. He's already gone over 100 yards this season on a 10-catch game against the Vikings. There's going to be a lot of focus on Nico Collins. He's been going off lately. So do you guys like Stefon Diggs to pass the century mark, plus 550 on Sunday against Buffalo?
This one's close. We're both like, it's a scratcher for me because, again, Nico Collins is the guy they go to first.
That's the only thing that's holding me back is Nico Collins because they kind of, I don't even want to say split. Nico gets more.
He's the
targets.
one. He's the one.
But I kind of like it. I think that the Texans can take advantage of the Bills' defense that was kind of, I don't want to say exposed, but showing signs of weakness and potentially, dealing with injuries, especially in the secondary. So I'll take it. Stefon Diggs over 100 receiving yards. Plus, I think a lot of the focus will be on Nico Collins since he's the clear, number one receiver for CJ Stroud. So I like it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Because it's a revenge game, he's going to get the ball, and they're going to try to make sure he has a good day. But at the same time, again, he had 69 yards last week. But Nico Collins gets 5, 6, 7 more targets than him a game. But I do think this week it's going to be, all right, Nico's going to get double more. He's going to get high coverage more. They're going to design more creative things to try to shut Nico down, and that's when Stefon Diggs has to shine. So if there is a wide receiver or a secondary wide receiver that I'm thinking is going to get 100 yards this week, a guy who's not the number one, Stefon Diggs would be the guy I go to. So, yeah, I'm with you for the same reason, and I'll pick Stefon Diggs also on a risky bet to go over 100.
All right, let's stay in that same game. We're going to go to alternate totals here. Bills, Texans over 56.5 points. So we're looking at maybe a 30-27 final here. I see this as a game where maybe the team that gets to 30 is the team that wins. The Bills defense looked very vulnerable against the Ravens. We've got two great quarterbacks in CJ Stroud and Josh Allen, plus 285 for an alternate total 56.5.
I like the under.
You do?
I don't like the over. I don't feel like this is going to be a lot of points. I think the Jets have a good defense.
The Jets? Aren't we talking about Bills and Texans?
Bills, Texans. I'm looking at the wrong spot. I was looking at the Jets, Vikings. Bills, Texans over 56.5. I'll go over.
Over? Yeah, I think it'll be higher scoring. I'm excited. This might be the game that I'm most excited to watch in week 5, just because I like both of these offenses have been so fun to watch throughout this season. I mean, Bills maybe not so much in their last game against the Ravens, but they're in a good bounce back spot. So, yeah, I like it. I would take over.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, bounce back. The Bills are going to bounce back. They had to deal with the Baltimore Ravens, but that's an offense that can still go. That's an offense that can still score some points. Josh Allen is who Josh Allen is. Keon Coleman, pretty good wide receiver. Again, had some struggles last week, but is going to be a good wide receiver in this league. And the Texans can flat out score the rock and get it to a bunch of people. So I do think this is going to be a pretty high scoring affair. Both defenses are good, like respectably good, but I do think this ends up being an offensive game where guys got to sort of catch up a little bit. So I'm with you on that. Two really good quarterbacks that are going to make things boogie.
Sounds good. 56.5 was the total that we had on that for the alternate, but the regular total in the game, if you were interested in grabbing that right now, is at 47.5 at -110. So let's go to an alternate spread here in London. And I think this one's really interesting, guys, because I like the Vikings to win the game a lot, but you could also take them to win the game by double digits, -9.5, plus 250. We've seen them dominate the 49ers. They let them come back into that game a little bit. They dominated the Texans 34-7. And then last week they were up 28-0 on a Packers team who ended up storming back, making it 31-29 final. So we've seen that they can do this, and they can do it to good teams. And the Jets don't even look like that good of a team right now. So plus 250 for the Vikings to win by 10 or more against the Jets in London.
I'm fading that. It's too big. It's too big of a number for me. Even though I've been talking about how we're overrating everyone had been at least overrating the Jets. I think that Sam Darnold showed some signs of being human last game. He's still playing really, really well, but I don't think well enough to win by 10 points. So fading that. I'm taking the 2.5 though, but not 9.5.
Yeah, it's too much. I think.
Yeah. Well, and with it being in London too, I feel like that throws just like a different aspect into the game. Like I know it's not that long of a travel, but like you're still traveling. You're in a different place. Like I just feel like that can also affect it.
Routines are thrown off so much. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's just 6 hours from New York, but at the same time from Minnesota, what they have to do is it's longer travel. I get that they have luxury planes and all those other things, but when these players are thrown off of their routine, things don't go right for them. So it's not a good look. But again, the Jets have a good defense, right? Like they have a good defense that can lock some things down. And part of this makes me feel like the Minnesota Vikings aren't this good. Yeah, maybe this is disrespectful, But again, they haven't been this good in their history. Sam Darnold hasn't been this good in his history. And I do think Sam Darnold's a solid quarterback now, that he has solid weapons around him and solid coaching. So I think he's going to continue to be Baker Mayfield-esque in the, hey, resurgence of the career. I'm a good quarterback. Maybe not elite, but I'm a good quarterback. But they can't be this good. Now, I'm not a believer yet. I'm not bought in all the way yet.
You're still mad that they beat the 49ers. It's fine.
Yes,
it's fine.
You're right. You're correct. But I still don't believe that they're that.
Yeah.
I think most people don't believe that. Like, most people aren't looking at them like, oh, they could go to the Super Bowl. Like this, right? So, I have them winning this game, but 9.5, that's too much for me. All right, Kenny, you got any more?
Yes, I do. We'll go back to player props here. I'll find a few good ones here on BetMGM. Jayden Reed, 100+ yards. This guy's been going off, one of the best receivers in football since the beginning of last year. 100+ yards for him. He's done this twice already this season. His plus 320. He's got his quarterback back, and he's going up against a Rams defense that has not been great lately. They let Marvin Harrison Jr. go off. They've let a lot of guys free. They let the Bears offense put up 24 against them last week. So the Bears offense that you guys said is horrible. I'll admit it's pretty bad. But Jayden Reed, 100+ yards, plus 320.
I'm going, with Jordan Love in the game.
Yeah.
Now that Jordan Love, again, the wide receivers that need to step up and he's been finding Jayden Reed. That's been his guy that he's going to the most with all the injuries and all the things going around that team. So now that Jordan Love has his squad back, and again, the Rams are a hurt team, an injured team. Their defense isn't great anymore either. So I think Jayden Reed can have a big game.
I'm going to fade it simply because I was already decided on a oh my God, I was about to call their running back Aaron Jones, not Aaron Jones. Help me, I'm having a brain
for the Packers
freeze. Yes, Packers running back going off.
Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs, thank you. I knew it was Jay. Josh Jacobs. Wow. Sorry, it's been a long week. Yes, I am all in on Josh Jacobs going off because the Rams defense is allowing the most rush yards per game, especially to opposing running backs. And Jordan Love, I think it took him some time to start looking normal, but he did look normal by the end of their week 4 game. I just don't know if I trust him and their passing game enough yet to take over 100 yards. Again, maybe like 75 plus. Maybe I'm being too safe here, but I see Josh Jacobs going off way more than I see Jayden Reed going off in this game. Plus, I don't think that the Packers are going to even keep it close. I think that they are going to crush the Rams in this, and they probably won't even have to throw the ball that much.
Okay. What you got next, Kenny?
All right, let's go to your 49ers, Sean. Brandon Ayuk, where is he? We're going to have to put out a missing persons report for Brandon Ayuk after all the training camp stuff. Maybe this will be the week. He's got an Arizona Cardinals defense that looked terrible against Washington last week. I know the Niners got some of their guys on offense back, but he's still looking for that 100-yard day. If you want to get him for 100+ yards, plus 400.
No. No.
No.
He's not.
But we're past the point of giving him the, well, he didn't play in training camp and, he's still warming up. Like, I think we're getting past that point. You still think that's,
yeah.
So what, is that going to affect him the rest of the season?
I think it's going to affect him 6 seconds because I think he's also handled it poorly.
Yeah.
Right. Some people know how to handle those type of things and get back and right away and be in rhythm. Right. You saw footage, and this could be nothing. These things type of happened of him. He comes back. He comes out on the practice field with the wrong shorts, and he go back. And Kyle Shanahan says go back and change. Mm-hmm. And they have a little discussion that seems a little brighter than it should be.
A little heated.
To go back and change because you're not in the right shorts. Just like little things like what's going on, Brandon Ayuk, and he just hasn't looked in rhythm. Period.
Yeah.
So I just don't like him. And mind you, his quarterback has thrown for the second most passing yards in the league so far. So it's not like they're not airing the ball out and getting it done. But he's had several drops on top of that. So I just think he's having a comeback season. He's having a season where he's coming back to the field a little bit after a season where he's an all-pro last year. So again, I don't like the rhythm he's in. I don't like the headspace that they seem to be in. So no on Brandon Ayuk until further notice at the very least.
I agree with you. It's a no for me.
So I think that brings up an interesting discussion then. Do we bet Jauan Jennings props for the Niners, or is it Deebo Samuel, George Kittle? Because the 49ers offense is going to have someone featured here, or is it Jordan Mason?
I'm all in on Jordan Mason in this one, just given that they're playing the Cardinals, and the Cardinals haven't looked good in general, which, by the way, I feel like we're not talking about that enough. The fact that everyone was like high on the Cardinals when they crushed the Rams, and they've since, they're 1-3 now and aren't looking too good, especially defensively. But I think that this is going to be one on the ground. Like, I don't even think that they're going to have to air the ball out too much in this one, 49ers. So if I were to take a prop for a receiver, it would probably be Jauan Jennings, right? Is he the number 2 guy, like, in terms of targets and yardage?
Oh, he has the most wide receiver.
Yeah.
He has most,
was not. Yeah,
he has the most yards for, and he's had that. He had that one game where he's 175, so that sort of skewed things. But last week he had over 50 again. So if you're looking for alternatives, and again, I'm not sure what Jauan Jennings' regular line is right now, but you go with Jauan Jennings to get over 50 yards. He's been absolutely balling, and he's been the release valve for Brock Purdy so far this season. Just throw it up to Jauan. And he's going to go get it, and he's been able to go get it. So Jauan Jennings is a guy that I would go for an alternative over 50 yards. I want to get crazy with it because he's not going to get as many targets. But, again, it's going to be spread out, and that's what Brock Purdy has done so far, spreading it out to Kittle, spreading it out to now that Deebo's back, getting it to Jauan Jennings. And Brandon Aiyuk is going to get his looks. I just don't think he's going to get his looks in tune for 100 yards because, again, they're just not in rhythm. They're not in lockstep rhythm with each other right now.
Yeah.
Anything right now we don't have Jauan Jennings props. Brandon Aiyuk is currently at 59.5 minus 120, and Deebo Samuel 52.5 minus 115. Jordan Mason's receiving number is also up at 11.5. No Jauan Jennings yet, but we'll wait on that. But yeah, I don't have anything. That's an interesting dynamic here. A lot of people pick Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel on their fantasy teams. A lot of people want to bet their props, but if Jauan Jennings is truly the guy there, I think that moving forward, we might need to look at his props as long as they come out.
And again, I don't think he's the guy. Brandon Aiyuk is going to continue to get more targets because he has got more targets when he's been in the game, with the exception of that one game. So he's going to continue to get the targets. But again, he ain't in rhythm, so you ain't going to get so many chances. Again, I like George Kittle in this game over to go over 50 yards. Right? Like, that's the guy, if, again, elite blocker, but when they allow him to go out and catch passes, he gets it done. Had an amazing Randy Moss touchdown catch last week over 3 people. So that's the guy I don't go with, but Brandon Aiyuk is.
What about Deebo? How do you feel about his props? What do you confidently take even like over? Well, with Deebo, it's always hard because I don't know if I want to take receiving or rushing or together. Would you take like a 75-yard combined?
Yeah,
for
I think
Deebo?
that's the best to go with him.
You would?
Combined stats. I would go 75 plus.
Okay.
Of him between receiving, rushing, trick plays, or whatever, what have you, because he hasn't stood out in any particular areas so far this year, and he's been hurt, so he's missed time. So he's trying to figure some things out. George Kittle is the one that, again, I feel the most confidence in. Jauan Jennings.
Yeah.
Between those two, not the other 2 stars. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about the biggest games. We got to break down the biggest games. I don't know what the biggest games are anymore. It's what I think are the biggest games, but they could turn out to be blowouts. They could turn out to be upsets because that's the way, like you said, the season's drunk. So it could turn out to be anything this week. That's why it's so much fun. Once again, Devin Caney, Sean Bell, the Sunday Spread. Once again, welcome back to the Sunday Spread. Devin Caney, Sean Bell, presented by BetMGM on the BetQL network. Going down a week 5 that's confusing. All right, it's been confusing because we don't know who's going to win. We don't know who's great. Right? Who's great this year? Does anybody look great? I guess the Minnesota Vikings, but outside of that.
Records would tell you, and stats, I guess the Vikings, but I still am unconvinced on that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're bad or mediocre, but like I just don't know if they're great. I don't know if there's any team that's great.
Yeah, there's not one team that makes you feel comfortable enough to they'll be there.
Yeah.
Even the Kansas City Chiefs.
They haven't looked great.
So we're trying to figure that out. But Kenny, let's go to you to some of the best games of the week.
Awesome. I'm going to try to help you guys figure it out. Vikings Jets in London. I'm a Vikings believer as long as they're playing in September. I don't know about in January, but in September and now as we head into October, they've been one of the best teams, if not the best team in football. The defense is awesome. Brian Flores has them blitzing everywhere. The offense with Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Jordan Addison back into the mold. Jets, Vikings, who do you guys like here?
I like the Vikings, and I like the Vikings, covering 2.5 points. Even though we just said that maybe they're not great, I think they're better than the Jets. I haven't been impressed with what I've seen from the Jets. They're coming off a game where they lost to the Broncos. Rodgers also looked a little bit beat up by the end of that game, and as he should. I mean, he took 14 hits, was sacked 5 times in Denver. He then had to get on a plane and fly to the UK. So, that's not easy, especially for someone who's a little bit older for a quarterback. So I think he's going to be beat up. And Sam Darnold on the other side, he's best quarterback rating in the league through 4 weeks. He leads the league in passing touchdowns. It's a revenge game for him. I like him in this spot, so I like the Vikings winning.
Yeah, same thing. It's more about me not believing in the Jets. I know I don't believe in Sam Darnold and the Vikings. I believe in the Vikings to be in a playoff team. I don't know if I believe in them being as dominant as they are, because they've essentially beat 3 teams we think are making the playoffs: the Green Bay Packers, the Texans, and the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
3 teams we think are going to be in the playoffs. That's the best resume you're going to have so far this early in the season. So the Minnesota Vikings, regardless of what we think their height is, their ceiling is, they're a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
And it just ain't it right now. Again, 9 points against the Broncos.
Yeah.
That ain't going to get it done.
No.
Aaron Rodgers, they're not in rhythm. They're not on the same page. They're talking about snap counts. They're talking about all these simple, small things that you should have down by now.
Yeah.
So, again, the Jets aren't in lockstep with each other. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is what he was when he was an MVP, what was that, 3 seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's far from that at this point, and they're expecting him to be that, which I think is the biggest problem. You expecting him, instead of having an overall team where you're balanced and you have the running game and you do things in a certain way, you're putting it all on Aaron Rodgers' back, and Aaron Rodgers who ain't Aaron Rodgers no more.
Yeah. I think what the Jets have going for them, not just in this game, but, throughout this season, is their defense, especially their pass defense. They have the second best pass defense in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of the ball, again, you've got Sam Darnold, who's throwing like an incredible elite quarterback, and you've got Justin Jefferson, who's arguably the best receiver in the league, or at least one of them. So it's going to be hard to stop. It's going to be hard to slow down that Vikings offense. It's just rolling right now. So, yeah, Vikings.
And not a blowout. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game.
Yeah, it'll probably be an entertaining game.
But
yeah,
I don't think the Jets have enough. They ain't have enough to beat the Broncos.
Yeah. Kenny, do you have any best bets in this one? Are we bringing Kenny, our producer, on?
I absolutely love the Vikings here, guys. That's why I mentioned I think the Vikings crush them. I think the combination of the Flores blitz, Roger going to be very uncomfortable. We're going to see some dysfunction, and then the storylines next week will be Jets need to trade for Davante Adams. They need to get this done. I think this Jets team is just not good right now. And even though I don't think the Vikings can win the Super Bowl, if the Super Bowl was played in a few weeks, they would be my favorite to go in and play it. So I think this Vikings team right now, we're looking at a top 3 team in the league. Jets, probably bottom 15, bottom 10 team in the league, and you're only getting -2.5. I think the Vikings steamroll the Jets on Sunday.
Steamroll them. I like it.
Steamroll.
So you would take the 9.5 alternate line that you gave us.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take -2.5. I'm going to take maybe -6.5 and then -9.5. Try to get some plus money on there as well, because I truly believe it. I think this Vikings team is a lot better than the Jets, and I think if I had to make the true line right now, I'd make it 4.5, 5.5. Let's go to Bengals Ravens. This is an interesting one, guys. I believe, because coming into the season, I wasn't very high on the Ravens. They lost those O linemen. Not much in the receiving game, but they played well over the last 2 weeks after that 0-2 start. The Bengals started 0-3, got a big win last week, must needed, although it was against the Panthers. We got a big divisional game here. The Bengals are +2.5 at home against the Ravens.
Yeah, this one's tough because, on paper, everything else aside, the Ravens are obviously the better team throughout the start of this season. I think the Bengals have probably been, at least in my opinion, the biggest disappointment in the league. A lot of people, including myself, had higher expectations. I didn't expect them to necessarily come in the league and be totally dominant, but Joe Burrow's back after being hurt. They still have Jamar Chase. They still have options on offense, and they've just been very mediocre to bad. They got their first win of the season over the Panthers, so I don't know if that necessarily, causes momentum to continue rolling. But they are very much still in desperation mode, where the Ravens are coming off a really big win over the Bills. They ran it a ton, and that could be a factor in this game. Like, they could still be tired from that game because they definitely gave it their all. You're still riding that high, maybe feeling a little bit overconfident going against a team that just got their first win this season against the Panthers. So it could be a tricky spot. I like the Ravens. I think that they're going to win, but I think it could still be closer than we expect.
I mean, yeah, it's a division rival type of situation, right? Like, I like Baltimore Ravens have been playing better football. And the Bengals start off the bad starts. Like, there was the thing of Joe Burrow being 1-9 in September or something like that, right? Like, I believe it was 1-9. So they're used to going 0-2. They're used to going 1-3. Like, there's something that they normally do. And when Burrow is healthy, they're able to snap out of it and reach the playoffs and do some things. And so that's what they're trying to do this year. And again, they haven't played as bad as we think if we're really looking at it, right? You go, all right, the Patriots loss is bad. You shouldn't lose to the Patriots. But you lose to the Chiefs by 1. Tough battle. You lose to a Washington team that you're now looking like, oh, they could be a playoff team. That may be they're really good. They're a playoff team, 38-33. And then obviously you beat the Panthers. Right, so your losses aren't as bad as you think, especially when you got Burrow coming off of injury, having some issues and needing to get back in rhythm. So the Cincinnati Bengals, in my opinion, at some point in the middle of this season are going to go on a 4 or 5 game winning streak, get back into this thing, and get back into the playoffs. Just don't think it starts today. Just don't think it starts with the Baltimore Ravens. If this game was at Cincinnati, if this game was I don't know, if this game was a couple weeks down the road, I feel like they would win this game. But because it's right now and they're just starting to click, they don't have their giddy up. Yeah. While the Baltimore Ravens are already galloping, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens in this game.
All right. And Lamar Jackson has won his last 3 games on the road versus the Bengals. Lamar Jackson, not the Ravens, because remember he had injuries and wasn't in, but plays well there. So
yeah.
Kenny?
What you think, Kenny?
I was going to ask you before I get to my pick, do you guys think Lamar Jackson's better than Joe Burrow, just in general? Do you think he's a better quarterback?
Yes.
You do?
100%. Like, how many years do you get to say I beat Patrick Mahomes once? Like, he's been living off of I beating Patrick Mahomes once. While Lamar Jackson has MVPs, several playoff wins, it's not like Joe Burrow has several seasons of being a top 2 quarterback.
Does Lamar have several playoff wins? I feel like he doesn't even have that many.
He has 2 now, I believe.
Okay, 2.
I don't know. They're totally different styles of quarterback, so it's hard for me to compare them. I think if you want, the traditional quarterback, obviously, Joe Burrow. I've been very underwhelmed with him this season. I think everyone has. I think I can never fully evaluate Lamar's arm because he doesn't throw the ball that much. And he doesn't have to, and that's fine. But, like, even now in the Ravens, like, they don't really throw the ball that much. And it's just not a traditional play, obviously. So I think I would go with Joe Burrow. I think he's a better quarterback.
See, the problem I have is Joe Burrow has 1 elite season.
Yeah. But how many elite seasons has Lamar had?
I mean,
1.
He's got 2 MVPs. He has at least 2. And so I'm guessing he has more than that. Joe Burrow has 1 Pro Bowl where he was a top 5 MVP candidate, where he went to the Super Bowl. Every other year he wasn't even a Pro Bowl player, right? Like, so, and again, in an era where it's easy to make the Pro Bowl because people are bouncing out of the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Again, I understand he's been hurt a lot, but you got to have more than 1 season to be able to jump over a guy in Lamar Jackson who goes to the playoffs every year, who has 2 MVPs. I'm trying to look at how many more Pro Bowl selections he has. He has 3 total Pro Bowl selections. But
he's been playing in the league longer, too.
I get it.
I can't explain it. I love Lamar Jackson. I actually think he's, like, very underrated. I don't know if underrated is the right word. Like, he doesn't get enough respect as a quarterback. I totally think that. But if I needed my team to score a touchdown or drive down the field to win a game with less than 2 minutes left, for reasons that I can't explain via stats or anything other than just a feel, I would choose Joe Burrow, if that makes sense. And maybe that's bias in me. Maybe that's like mainstream media pushing Joe Burrow. Like, I don't know, but I would want Joe Burrow to be my quarterback there. I would trust him more.
I get it. I just think he's getting a lot of leeway off of one Patrick Mahomes win and a Heisman.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong. I really don't. I don't think you're wrong. But for whatever reason, I just think that I would want him to be my like comeback quarterback in a situation like that.
And this is going to be unfair because I do believe Joe Burrow is better than this quarterback I'm about to name, and I'm not trying to take a shot, but like I always say, if you don't have multiple, I'm not putting you in the elite class unless you have multiple elite seasons. Mm-hmm. Jalen Hurts had an elite season, hasn't been able to get back there.
No,
shoot, Joe Flacco had an elite season. Was he ever elite? Like Joe Burrow, I think can be elite. But, dog, I'm not putting you past Lamar or an elite category with one.
Yeah, I get it. But Lamar
I also get why you're like,
needs to win in the postseason more, too.
I also get why Joe Burrow gives you Joe Montana vibes in 2-minute situations. Like, I also get that, but I just think it's a little unfair. Kidding.
I get it.
Well, the reason I asked you guys that question was because I think in this scenario, if you do think Joe Burrow is the better quarterback than Lamar Jackson, you're getting the better quarterback at home as an underdog in a divisional game. Rarely are you ever going to see that. I know that they're probably closer to equal than one being better than the other. But I think in this scenario, I thought coming into this season, even though Lamar won MVP last year, that Joe Burrow was the second best quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes. I will still stick to that. I'm going to bet the Bengals on the money line this week. You can keep the points at the door. And I'll go to the grave with the Bengals. I think if they lose this week, their season might be done at 1-4. So I'll bet the money line and go to the grave with the Bengals because I thought they were going to have a great season coming in. Let's go to
they got the Giants, Browns, Eagles who aren't playing well, Raiders after that. So they can surely bounce back and then go, all right, I can win 4 in a row after losing a tough game. I think it's going to be very close because it's divisional rivalry. It's going to be a 28-25 type of game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Burrow wins this game. But again, I can't put my money on it based on how the two teams have played so far. What you got next?
Let's go to an awesome AFC matchup between the Bills and the Texans. We talked about the Stephon Diggs revenge game, but I think there's a little bit more to it. Josh Allen had said a few weeks ago that the offense was perfectly fine. No one was caring about stats. A lot of people thought of that as a shot at Stephon Diggs. Bills, Texans, we talked about the total and potentially a lot of points being scored in this game, but who do you guys like to win?
So this one, I mean, I think the line reflects how hard it is to pick a winner in this game because it's like essentially been a pick-em throughout the week. I don't know. I think I want to go Texans here. What about you?
I'm going Texans.
Texans? Okay. I think that the Texans just have way more weapons and options to get the ball to on offense. If Joe Mixon is definitely playing, which I know he's been questionable all week and he hasn't played in the last few games for the Texans, I'm definitely going with Texans because I think that they can kind of expose the Bills' defensive vulnerability on the ground there. But still, I just like with Nico Collins, with Stephon Diggs, I liked C.J. Stroud and the Texans at home against the Bills, who are kind of coming off a rough loss, might be a little downtrodden and exhausted. I don't know. What about you? I'm not certain. Clearly, I don't sound confident here.
I think the Bills are another one of those teams who look great in the first 3 games, but we're not sure what they actually are. Because whenever I told you what their schedule was, you beat the Jaguars 47-10. All right, the Jaguars haven't won a game yet. You beat the Dolphins 31-10. Like, okay, Tua went out in that game. It's just like, all right, you know what they are without Tua. And you beat the Cardinals, who 34-28, and it's looking like the Cardinals are a competitive team, but not a very good team. So once you faced a team that was elite, you got boat raced, right? So now that you're facing another team that we all expect to be in the conversation for AFC Championship game, how are you going to fare? I think the Buffalo Bills are sort of going to miss having Stephon Diggs in this game. Miss having an A1 wide receiver that you can go to or that can at least draw the defense and allow other guys to eat. Miss having a Gabe Davis, a deep threat that you can throw to. Like, miss having some of those weapons. So now you DeMeco Ryans can come in there and be like, I can game plan. This is easier to game plan against. I know Josh Allen is special, but you ain't got nobody in the out. I can single cover all these guys. Put somebody else in the box shadow Josh Allen. I think they're just easier to deal with now as a football team. So, again, that's why I like the Texans. And, again, the Bills are going to have to beat somebody real for me to feel like they're real this season, because I think this season they're not as good as they were in seasons past.
I agree.
So that's the way I'm looking at that. Listen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about a couple more big-time games, and then all three of us, me, Dev, Kenny, will give some of our best bets, things that you can count on. All right? Sunday Spread. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the final segment of Week 5 of the Sunday Spread. Once again, Devin Caney, Sean Bell, Kenny Henderson here with us in a second. Make sure you make those no sweat bets. No sweat tokens, no sweat bets. We're about to give you a bunch of people to bet on. But again, if you don't win, who cares? You're going to get it right back. That's the fun part. So that's when you want to do the 8-leg, 10-leg touchdown bets. You know what I mean? That's when you want to get crazy, do the alternatives of 125. Because you're going to get that money back. Then you can be safe with it later on.
Yeah, or not. I need to be more risky with my no sweat bets. I'm too safe with them. And I always forget that I can get the money back even if it doesn't hit.
Exactly. All right. So, Kenny, come back in. What are a couple more games that we're going to talk about?
Let's go to Sunday Night Football in Pittsburgh. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers led by Justin Fields coming off their first loss against the Colts last week. And then you got the Cowboys on 10 days of rest after their win against the Giants. Ugly win at that on Thursday Night Football last week. Who do you guys like here? And what I believe is a pretty interesting game with the Steelers favored -2.5 against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. It's surprising. Or is it? I don't know, because the Cowboys haven't looked great, but they will have extended rest here, which I think could be an advantage to them. But they're also potentially missing two very important guys on defense. Steelers defense also, on the other hand, didn't look super great last week, even though their defense has been really impressive this season. Pass defense gave up over 220 yards, which doesn't bode well for, them facing CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. I don't really think that they have to worry about the Cowboys' run game, because their run game is essentially like non-existent. I mean, you have Zeke, and he's kind of washed at this point. I think we can all agree on that. But in terms of like picking a side here, I think that you could find reasons to take either of these teams, and I keep going back and forth in this one.
I'm going Steelers.
Steelers?
I'm going Steelers. Cowboys, they're missing a lot. But they're also missing their soul. Like, they don't have – this is the first Cowboys –
Haven't they always been missing their soul?
That's a fact. That's a fact. They haven't had this bad of an offense in a long time.
Yeah.
Because every year that Dak has been there, every year that Tony Romo was there, multiple weapons everywhere. Mm-hmm. You had wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, multiple. They got 1.5 weapon right now. Right, and with CeeDee Lamb being the main weapon, so it's just a lot easier to deal with. It's a lot easier to guard, and I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers last week realized something. Right, they had to air it out a little bit because they got behind. And Justin Fields threw for 312, 1 TD. He ran for 55 yards. It was like, okay, George Pickens had 7 catches, 113 yards. You're like, okay, we don't have to shelter this kid as much as we think. Mm-hmm. If we need to go to opening things up a little bit for Justin Fields, and so I think that's where I think Pittsburgh Steelers' next evolution is over the next few weeks is, all right, we're still a running team. We're still Cordell Patterson, Najee Harrison, Jalen Warren if he's healthy. But we can, play action and throw it deep. We can do some things and allow Justin Fields to flourish in the pass game, and I think that's going to slowly see itself in this Dallas Cowboy game. So I think, again, Russell Wilson never be heard of again, obviously. So I think with that said, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to score a little bit more points, open some things up, and Dallas Cowboys aren't going to be able to answer it because they're kind of easy to defend right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are, I think, surprisingly – well, I guess not to me. I wish Barrett was here because I know he and I are always like, Steelers are never as bad as we think that they are because they have Mike Tomlin. He's always going to be an advantage for them. Their defense is really good. And now their offense is kind of finding its way. Like you mentioned, we realize that Justin Fields can be a dual threat. He can throw it when the run game isn't working. I mentioned in our Anytime Touchdown segment, I love Justin Fields getting in the end zone in this one because he scored. Yes, he aired it out, last week against the Colts, but he also ran for 55 yards and scored 2 rushing touchdowns. Dallas's defense could not handle Lamar Jackson. They did not play well against mobile quarterbacks, and we know that they don't play well against stopping the run, especially if they don't have guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons on defense. So I like Justin Fields getting in the end zone himself. I was also impressed with Cordarrelle Patterson. I know that he's kind of dealing with an injury, is potentially questionable in this one. But if Najee Harris has another quiet game, I could see Cordarrelle Patterson getting in the end zone as well here. But yeah, I think they're finding their way. JJ Watt didn't get a sack, didn't get to the quarterback last week, so he's now overdue. So I think he's going to eat. So yeah, I like the Steelers in this spot. I just think when it comes to the Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb, sometimes you never know. He could go off. They can get you.
Yeah, they can. Again, I just not against the Steelers defense. What do you think, Kenny?
I love the Cowboys here, guys, and I'll tell you why.
Ugh,
it's gross.
Ugh.
As a Bears fan, I've seen Justin Fields play in a few big games. Not many, but he's played in a few big games. Last year against the Packers, Week 18, where we had a chance to knock the Packers out of the playoffs. He's played on primetime a few times. One time against the Commanders, he played really well on primetime. But for the most part, Justin Fields in big games, not a good idea. I'm getting Dak Prescott on the other side. Dak Prescott, guys, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL over the last 3 years. You can say what you want about the playoffs, but in the regular season, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm getting him at a plus number. I know what the Steelers defense is great, but on the other side of the football, I don't expect Justin Fields to play as well as he did last week. I know Micah Parsons is going to be out. I know Brandon Cooks is going to be out, but I think the Cowboys are going to be able to score. The Colts did last week. And I just love the idea of I'm getting plus money with Dak Prescott against Justin Fields. I'll take that any day of the week. So I like the Cowboys as underdogs a lot, where a lot of people are going to be leaning towards Pittsburgh because they do look like the better team. But we know in the NFL, the better team does not always win. So let's go to Monday Night Football. Saints and Chiefs. This is a very interesting game, guys. I think the Chiefs laying 5.5 against anybody in the NFL is disrespectful right now because they are not beating anybody by margin. The Saints have not been bad to start the season. 40 points in their first 2 games. I know they've struggled the past 2 weeks, but it's been a close game against both two playoff contenders in the Eagles and the Falcons. So Saints, Chiefs, Saints plus 5.5 on the road in Kansas City.
Look, I touched on it in our underdog segment. I totally agree with what you just said, Kenny. I like the Saints covering those 5.5 points against the Chiefs. The Chiefs, yes, they may be 4-0. They haven't looked great. Like we've talked about all show, no team has looked great. But the Kansas City Chiefs have not looked explosive. They now are racking up injuries, especially on the offense and in terms of options and weapons for Patrick Mahomes to get the ball to. Meanwhile, the Saints still have most of their threats. They have Alvin Kamara, who can be receiving and rushing threat. They have Rashid Shaheed, who is their deep ball threat. They have Chris Olave, who's great in the slot. The Chiefs, who do you trust on the Chiefs offense to secure the ball and get in the end zone?
All you need is Pat. It doesn't matter.
But that's not always true. Not when Pat only has Noah Gray to get the ball to.
I like Noah Gray.
Travis Kelce's backup. I like the Saints covering here. I'm not saying win. I'm saying cover. Well, I said in the underdog segment win, but you know.
Yeah, you did.
You know.
Yeah, you did.
Whichever you want to take.
I think the Chiefs win by a touchdown.
Okay.
Saints ain't real. That was cute. Saints
have looked great.
That was cute. Yeah, the first 2 weeks, that was cute.
And then they lost close games.
They lost to the Eagles.
Good team.
You saw how the Eagles looked last week.
Well, they had. Okay.
No, I'm just saying. Again, I think the Kansas City Chiefs. We forget the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid find a way no matter who's on the field. We forget that they end up having explosive offense at some point no matter who's on the field. And I think Xavier Worthy's going to eat. And I think Travis Kelce is going to have his first touchdown of the year. Yes,
I'm
gonna throw that out. I know we're getting to our best bets. I'm throwing out that right there. I was a little hesitant on it, but with the injuries, with Rashee Rice, his blanket not being there, Travis Kelce finally getting out of his funk last week and getting some catches and getting some yards, I think this is the week that he has his first touchdown. So I'm throwing Travis Kelce in there to have plus 75 plus yards. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm gonna get the alternative 75 plus. And an anytime touchdown in this game because they're going to need him to step up, and he's a guy who steps up. I know he hasn't played so far this season great, but he's a guy who steps up. So that's my first best bet that I'm going to give y'all right off the bat. What do you think, Kenny?
Wait. Can I just add one more stat here? Because I can't let Sean win this argument.
Okay.
Chiefs, their red zone efficiency. Where do you think they rank in the league?
It doesn't matter.
24th.
Doesn't matter.
The Saints have the best red zone defense.
Doesn't matter.
All right.
It never matters with Pat. It doesn't. He's baby goat. He'll figure it out.
Kenny, what do you have?
Sean, do you have the Chiefs going 17-0 this year then? I'm just curious because
it ain't to the Saints. They going to lose some games, but it ain't going to be to the Saints. Book it. Write it down for next week. Record it.
I think it's coming, and I think it's coming here. Listen, this team so lucky every single game to escape versus lesser opponents than the Saints. Last week they played the Chargers. They probably should have lost that game.
They should have lost every game that they've played so far this season.
The Chargers are better than the Saints.
Atlanta,
that's
they should have lost.
Conversation for another day.
So I'm going to take the Saints with the points. I don't know if I'm going to take them on the money line, but I could easily see them winning just because I think the Chiefs are. Sorry, I think the Chiefs are a team that can beat anybody in the league. Obviously, they're probably the best team in the league, but they can also lose to anybody at this point, especially with the offensive injuries out. And they're letting teams hang in. No matter who it is, they're letting them hang in the game. And if they let the Saints hang in the game, we know with the offensive pieces what they can do. And I'm just going to take the points here.
Yeah, it's that Arrowhead, too. It's our Arrowhead, too. All right, quick. We got to go through our best bets. Dev, best bets for today.
All right, I'm just going to go with my 3 favorite sides here because we are running out of time. So I'll go Vikings -2.5 over the Jets, Browns +3.5, Commanders, and Saints +5.5 against the Chiefs.
Double down on the Chiefs. Okay, I got you. I'm going to go I'll give you a bunch of alternatives real quick. Again, I told you Travis Kelce, 75 anytime tutty. Jordan Mason's going to continue to run the ball and get the rock. Over 75 yards, I'll do the alternative, even though he's probably coming in around 88. 75 alternatives, but I'm going to add an anytime touchdown with him. I think he's going to consistently get touchdowns. I think Najee Harris has a bounce-back game. The Cowboys are going to have a tough time with the rock, with stopping the run. So I think Najee Harris is going to get off and have over 50 yards in that game. And Stephon Diggs +75 over the Buffalo Bills. Those are some of the best bets that I like in this game. Kenny, you got any best bets you want to throw out?
Yes, I do. We've already been through a few of them. Vikings -2.5. Like I said, I think they're going to absolutely crush the Jets like they've done to a lot of teams this year so far. Bengals money line at home against the Ravens. Browns +3.5. I agree, Devin. I just think this is too big of an adjustment, and it's time to fade the Commanders. Cowboys money line, I just talked about how I like Dak against Justin Fields, and then I'll take the Texans at home at a plus price against the Bills, who just looked horrible on Sunday Night Football.
Love it. And lastly, to retouch on our touchdown scores, I have Brian Robinson, James Cook, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Fields, Jordan Mason. Do you have any to add?
Travis Kelce, like I said.
Ugh.
Y'all don't want to add the tight ends. The tight ends are going to get... Again,
you failed me last week in my touchdown parlay, so I'm fading him now.
I'm not mad at it. And then
score.
Throw in Jonathan Taylor in there also.
Oh, okay.
Throw in Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to have a big game in this game. Once again, this was the Sunday Spread. Devin Caney, Sean Bell. Barrett might be back from Jamaica. I don't know.
We don't know.
I wouldn't come back.
See.
I wouldn't come back.
I wouldn't blame him if he didn't.
Exactly. All right. BetQL, presented by the BetMGM. Have fun. Enjoy your day.